Welcome to Momentous Live, episode 8. I'm Tristan Jutra, and up there, it's Rutger Hauer.
Tears in the Rain. I'm Gray Williams.
And next to him...
Oh, me. I'm William Silver.
And when I did this, it never gets it right. So I'm going to try this way, and let's see how, in post, we'll see how it works, because I'm not fixing it in post. And Pinky?
That's me, Tasia Custodi. Hello.
So if you're Pinky this week, who's the brain? That's got to be
Pinky.
Will. So lots to talk about this week. We thought maybe there wouldn't be anything because the air got sucked out of the room by Apple with their spring loaded event, and there's been all sorts of follow-up since then across the web, and we'll chat a little bit about that, including the drop of iOS 14.5 and iPadOS 14.5, some interesting stuff from Disney's Imagineering R&D lab, and some updates from NASA, what they're doing on Mars, and all sorts of extra little tidbits, including a new trailer from Marvel and some crypto stuff. And Tasia's been busy this week. Whole lot of stuff for you this week. So let's start off. How were you? Had y'all recovered from the Apple event last week? There was so much to unpack there. We spent a full hour just talking about it, and there were things that we didn't even cover, like updates to the Apple Card, which we don't have in Canada yet here because second-class citizen. Tasia, do you have an Apple Card yet?
No.
No.
Do you have a Google card?
You know, I would have Google everything if I could. You all know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now that we've had a little bit of time to process, before we jump into some of the updates with iOS 14.5 this week, any further reflections in articles you've read or other videos you've seen about what we saw at Apple's Spring Loaded event? Any desires bubble to the surface?
Well, I'm still waiting because unfortunately we can't pre-order a lot of this stuff until April the 30th. And so, as you guys know, I am so on board with the new Apple TV precisely because of the new Apple TV remote. And I think you all saw on Twitter, I made a little discovery. I think I was actually the first one to see this. And it is that the remote icon in the drop-down menu in Command Center has been updated to reflect the new remote. So slowly but surely erasing the worst Apple product in history out of my life. People defend this thing on Reddit, and I'm like, oh, that's Stockholm Syndrome. That's so nice. Because there's a short list of Apple products that I would launch into space, that being the first one, the second being the Puck Mouse, and the third being the Apple Toaster, mostly because I didn't get a chance to own one. Awesome product, kind of useless, right?
Oh, yes.
So for me, Apple TV is absolutely on my radar. Although I did actually, I'll come back to it. But I bought a new watch band, and there are new colors coming, which they didn't think they really touched on in the event. But there is a Blaze Orange that's coming.
Nice.
It will be mine. It will be mine.
Now, Graham, the Apple TV though, it's still 2 generations behind in the processor. What do you think's going on there? I've heard words that we haven't seen the last of Apple TV refreshes this year. What's your take on that?
I'm not really sure that I buy it. So this has got an A12 Bionic in it. Mm-hmm. And so when you take a look, the A12 Bionic's been used in a variety of different Apple products. And someone's like, well, it's slower than the last version in multi-core. Okay, so we need to understand a couple of things about Apple processors. The name does not always imply the same performance. We've actually seen the same processor in both an iPad and in an iPhone, and they have had different specifications. So what I would say at this point, and really when we're starting to think about like how much multi-core processing is this thing going to do? I mean, gaming probably, but I'm going to bet dollars to donuts the fact that this has a dedicated power supply as well as more room for cooling. That A12 is probably going to be pretty beefy. Like this, it's got an A10Z, I think, in the current system. Now, here's the question: like we've gone a long time with an Apple TV refresh. Do they bring out a model with a brand new remote and this processor only to bring out another model in less than 9 months? That one sounds a little hinky to me.
What if it's Apple TV Pro? I mean, if they're serious about Apple Arcade and they keep doing refreshes there and whatnot, why wouldn't they throw everything they can at a top-end device?
Because this is when Apple takes a look at gaming, Apple Arcade is exactly it, right? People can design for that process. They're designing for an install base. They're not going after the PlayStation audience. They're not going after the Xbox audience. They're going after mom and dad who have an Apple Family account, who are going to pay another $5 a month to throw a PlayStation 5 DualSense controller in the hands of the kids, which is now compatible with all of the devices as of iOS 14.5 and tvOS, whatever the hell we're on right now. So it really is like, this is the shut up and play system. You know, we've got Nintendo at home. This is what this is. They're not looking to eat that market share, because between iPhone and iPad and Apple TV, they've actually got tons of market share, right? Developers are making good money on Apple games. Apple Arcade is really designed to cut the legs out of the in-app purchase market. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of reason to go to an Apple TV Pro this year. When that is going to happen is when we start to see more AR. Apple Glasses come out. I think you'll probably see a base station that connects with those that will give you more of the Oculus style experience, but that's not happening this year. And if it does, I will buy one.
Well, I think Apple's at a risk of spreading their lineup, their Apple TV lineup, out a little much. It's only an A12 at the high end currently, but they still are selling the Apple TV HD, which is going on how many years old now? Like 6 or 7 years old, with an A7 in there, I believe. A7
well, the question is, you're only pushing, full HD on that, and it does it well.
Yeah.
And so for the people who just want a TV device, I think really they should probably be going after price points on that, because God knows, Google, Amazon, you can get Roku, you can get cheap sticks and things that will get TV into your house. The thing is, they don't actually really even need to do that anymore. So when you start to think about it, what is Apple TV really designed to do, or what was it designed to do? It was designed to get Apple into your living room and give you AirPlay in your living room. But almost every TV that ships now has AirPlay too. Now, if it's to get Apple TV, the service, into your living room, almost every TV ships with that service as well. So for Apple, it comes down to, we don't want the entry level. The TVs have it. We want the higher end level because we want people to have high resolution and high frame rate HDR. We want people to have Apple Arcade. We want people to have Apple services that they have on their phones and their iPads. I'm just looking at it and going, what else would you add?
How about an FX Now Canada app that actually works reliably and doesn't sign you out every week? Is that too much to ask?
It's little salty on that one. Little salty.
Stings. It stings. In my perfect world, I'd like to see, the regular Apple TV for normies, an Apple TV Pro that's balls out, raising, and maybe an Apple TV Mini. Maybe something that competes with a stick. It doesn't have to be as cheap as the Chromecast or the Fire TV stick, but something to play in that market a little bit. Maybe if they can do that without cannibalizing, but segment like they've segmented their other markets.
But again, with those models that are coming with it now, like are they looking to retrofit? Because there are so many Apple TVs in the market they could do that with. So I'm just kind of looking at it going, I mean, I like it, but if we're talking about segments in the market, I don't know that it's necessarily the right choice.
Yeah, well, probably just not enough unit sales to warrant it at this point. Tasia, have you had any reflections on the on the products that we saw last week from Apple? Change your mind about anything?
I remain unimpressed. No, I haven't really changed my mind. I'm sorry. Though, to Gray's point, I'm always up for a new Apple Watch band. I have a really particular, okay. You know how you can get, we're going to get really into the weeds. You can get space gray, you can get silver, you get whatever, all the things. A lot of the bands don't come with the magnetic claspies that match the colors. So like of your actual watch body. So I'm really big into that. Like, that's why I love the ones that Apple makes, because they're really cognizant of that, as opposed to, there's only been one company I can find that has a good like third-party band that matches space gray clasps. You guys, it's so hard to find. So from that reason, I'm pumped about that. That's it.
Yeah, that's you've got the aluminum space gray, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Will, any further reflections on what we saw last week from the Apple event? Anything on your shopping list?
Two small things. I mean, you guys might know this, but I'm looking at a new laptop, so I was a bit disappointed there wasn't a laptop in there a 16-inch MacBook Pro, but that's probably waiting a while. So I'm a little bit, still waiting for that. The other thing is, I am also looking at not as keen as Graham, but definitely an Apple TV, or at least still considering it. And then the final thing is, I do like the iPad Pro, but at the same time, if I'm getting a laptop, something to think about, maybe an iPad Air or something like that. So that's just another sort of side thought that I had as well. It's interesting also what Graham says about Apple Arcade, because I went to try to download. I'm big into, you guys may not know this, I have an addiction to turn-based strategy games on my iPad while I'm watching TV, because I can just kind of press things and let my guys fight, or do a raid or something like that. And I wanted to download the Star Trek turn-based strategy game, and it's only on Apple Arcade. And initially I was a bit pissed off because I'm not on Apple Arcade, but at the same time it just makes a lot of sense, because some of the games I'm playing right now are getting into goofy, I won't get into the weeds on this one, but 2-tier systems of giving rewards. So you pay a certain amount a month, $7.99 a month, and you get better rewards, which I hate 2-tier systems in that kind of a game. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well just pay $5.99 for Apple Arcade, and to circumvent that, because that to me is infuriating. But anyway, side point, we can talk about that at another point, but that's just my thoughts on some of the Apple stuff.
Well, one of the nice things about Apple Arcade is that if you're interested in casual gaming, and they have some slightly more serious games in there too, is for that monthly price, you can play all the games you want, and you got no ads and no freaking in-app purchases requests over and over and over again. It's a much nicer, cleaner experience. We're just experimenting with it a little bit now, because we're doing the 1-month free trial of Apple One. Because we like the Apple TV Plus, we're going to stick with that. I was already doing iTunes Match to sync up my library everywhere. So now Apple Music is kind of taking over that, and hopefully it doesn't DRM all my music accidentally. And they've mostly worked out the bugs on that kind of stuff over the last couple of years. And we've got my wife wanted to continue Apple Fitness Plus, and if you're going to pay for Apple Fitness Plus and one or two of the other services, like, you might as well go to Apple One. Because we also do the 2 terabyte of iCloud storage as well. So it's just doing the math, and it's like, that's how they get you, right? For a couple bucks more, then we get Apple News Plus and all this, and Apple Arcade and all this stuff. It's like, okay, well, let's try it. So we're trying it for a month, see how it goes. And if you buy a year at a time, it's not all that bad after all. So Apple Arcade definitely is lots to play with there. But have you tried Apple Arcade, Graham? Yeah.
I have. So, and here's the thing, actually, my Apple One subscription is less than half the price of what I was paying for all of the Apple services before. So that's one of those reasons why I was like,
they made it for you.
I guess I'll go do this. The Star Trek game's kind of fun. It is really, just a generic RPG with Star Trek clothing on, but that's okay. It's fun. A lot of the games really, they are approaching AAA mobile game caliber, and in some cases they're in the console class, and it's good. For me, the big thing has really just been the controller. I bought an 8-bit DO controller Bluetooth off of Best Buy, and it's been okay, but coming from the DualSense 5 on the PlayStation, it does feel like a bit of a step back, which, as a retro gamer is cool, but I really love the feel of the new DualSense 5, and so that we're talking iOS 14.5. I am so excited about being able to use that new controller.
There you go. The controllers we have had we got a few years ago that we quite like are the SteelSeries Nimbus. And those feel really, really nice in the hand. They're nicely weighted. They're a nice shape. They're in the other room. Otherwise, I'd show them to you. But again, as casual gamers, it more than does the trick for us, because we don't have either of the latest top-tier consoles yet. But let's get into iOS 14.5, which just dropped yesterday. And there's a couple of topics in there that are of particular significance. But a couple of things: unlocking your iPhone with an Apple Watch when you're wearing a mask. They've made some enhancements for Apple Maps, AirTags support, now that AirTags are out. And a few other bits and pieces. Of course, one of the most important things that the world is waiting for, a whole bunch of new emoji. I think there's 200 new emoji in there. So Finally, they updated the syringe to not be filled with blood anymore. In our modern times,
bearded
it's
woman.
filled with, yeah. Well, no, it's a bearded person. So there are people of either gender or whatever gender that have long hair. I mean, like the dude from Crystal Castles. I mean, he looks just like one of the. I mean, he was canceled a few years ago, but anyhow, being able to set Spotify or other streaming services as your default is a handy thing. Some new Siri Voices, the ability to choose your Siri voice when you do a fresh install, and then not defaulting to the default Siri voice. So. Anyhow, lots of stuff. Graham, what stands out to you in this update? Because there's one specific one I think that you might have some thoughts on regarding with our big blue friend, and it's not IBM.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the big one for me right now is expanded controller support. This is really great. Like I've got a DualSense 5 at home right now, so that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. What else did I really like? I love the new emojis. Like the heart on fire is a great one. Like. Very much an Elvis thing that I'm digging. The syringe one's an interesting one because obviously living next to Vancouver's downtown east side, Twitter just recently made a change to their syringe, and they added blood into it. And so I think there's been a lot of controversy about like what should this say. And I think with a lot of people who are looking at vaccines as well, it's like you don't need that. Let's just go with something that's more generic. And I think this is a good change. Can I confess that I really want AirPods Max? Is that okay?
You're not alone.
$700 set of headphones, and I'm like, okay, if I get all my friends together, and we all kind of chip in, could I get a pair of these this year? But that's a lot of the big stuff for me.
But I was teeing up something about the new Big Blue that I know that our Big Blue social network that you have some thoughts on in 14.5. What does it do?
I totally forgotten about them because I haven't logged in so long. Honestly, so do not track, obviously. The untrackening is, wow, like what a reaction we're starting to see to this. Like working in the marketing space, and people are just losing their goddamn minds about this idea that marketing is over. It's done. We can just go home, pack it all up, and we're finished. It's fascinating to watch this happen. And, we've got unstoppable force with absolutely movable object, with Apple screaming at Facebook right now at 100 miles an hour. And I think Mark's standing there on the tracks with his hands out going, no, stop. It's not going to stop, man. And like every little shortcut that I think people are trying to take around this, they're going to get hurt. I think we're going to talk about that next. But I am so turning on that do not track for all of the apps that have asked for it yet. Facebook hasn't asked for it yet because they haven't updated their app. And Google did the same sort of thing. They slow walked a lot of their app updates for almost 100 days, where they used to be like every 2 weeks, boom, 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 updates. And then when we started to see the things that they were pulling out of these apps, Google stopped, and they've resumed updates now. But it's almost like they're in denial. I'd like to say I feel for them, but I don't.
Denial? That river in Egypt?
No, that's the Suez. There's a ship stuck in it.
Yeah. So we'll get into that a little bit more next up. But Tasia, any of the features in 14.5 that are encouraging you to update right away?
Not a darn one.
No, apparently not. Oh, we can't. Tasia can't hear us at the moment for some reason. How about you, Will?
No, I mean, for me, there's no showstoppers here. At least, I mean, I might wait a little while till I update, a couple weeks maybe. New emojis are always fun. I love the last drop with the zombies, so I'm looking forward to. And the ninja, I think, came around last time, so I'm looking forward to the new emojis.
Gotcha. Well, that's the thing too, is like a lot of the features are sort of behind the scenes, but what the emojis are definitely one of the most visible things. And that's Apple is, they're kind of cagey that way because they don't put the updated emoji in the big update in the fall. They usually wait a few versions, and then it encourages people that didn't do the big update to finally, do the update mid-cycle to their phones, so get them all in the program, so to speak. And Apple's generally been pretty good about getting its users to stay reasonably current, unlike some other platforms, Android out there that have, I mean, the support for their user base is sometimes you only get a couple of years worth of updates for your phone, depending on who your hardware vendor is, and then you're out of luck. So, but let's get into some of the nitty gritty on this tracking thing. So just to clarify for those who haven't been following the drama in the digital marketing world, is the big change that Apple was making, and they actually delayed it by a few months to give the internet marketing industry some time to figure out a game plan, is that now they are asking people if they want to allow tracking for the various apps on the phone. So it's just transparency, right? So are you willing to be tracked across third-party sites? I mean, this is how the major ad networks run by Facebook, Google, and dozens of others. That's their bread and butter. Now, like Graham, you said that it's a very different landscape now today than it was 2 days ago.
Yeah, and so this is the thing. I mean, Apple's released a video detailing app tracking transparency. I'll see if I can throw this up here for us in just a second. And so, yeah, this is basically what they put through, saying you're going to see this beautiful little modal window that will say ask app not to track or allow. And they actually give some use cases as to where you would want someone to track you, whether that is going to be things that are tracking you if you're going for a run, or if you want to be able to share your location data based on pictures. And so those are all really justifiable use cases. There's your pictures there. What they are saying, though, is that a lot of apps were going beyond that, right? They were digging into your contacts, and they were digging into your web browsing history and all of this sort of stuff, where they were basically painting this very vivid picture about you and then selling it to data brokers, not the power broker, data brokers. And so looking at this,
that was a reference, folks.
Boom. My references are sick. And so looking at this, it's just, I think a lot of the things that so many of us were upset about after Cambridge Analytica, I think this really it drove Apple to say enough is enough. We built this platform, we believe in privacy, and we have to have some say for our users. Now, this is not Apple saying that no one can track you. This is Apple giving the user choice. And Facebook has been taking out, full page ads in the New York Times. They're sponsoring podcasts, talking about all sorts of different, even going into the Section 230 thing. They're constantly on the wrong side of history. And they're on the wrong side of history about this as well. Apps do not need to track us to the degree that they are. The one thing that I'd like to see in the future is more granular approaches to this. I think this is a good start. But I think we're going to look at training users on this right now. We're going to teach them about what tracking is all about, and then in a next generation iteration, we will start to see some more granular controls. Like, you can track me on this, but you can't track that, and that's what I'd like to see in the future.
Yeah, to be fair, they have been slowly introducing the various permissions as the years have gone on. You mentioned access to contacts, access to location. So it's not all at once. And you may recall a few years ago, was it Windows 10 or was it Windows Vista? I think it was Windows Vista that just asked for so many permissions when you upgraded, and people were it's funny, people were actually mocking it a little bit. But in retrospect, I think Microsoft was a little ahead of the game when it came to some of those permissions, and I don't remember exactly what else permissions were, but they were an effort to have some kind of transparency into what is actually happening with the system. And to your point, Gray, is there a problem with simply asking? And if the digital marketing industry is so worried that people are going to say no, thank you, maybe they need to think about their business practices and what value they're actually offering to the internet in general. Because if you're afraid of people saying no, then maybe it's a you problem, not an us problem.
If you're afraid of the question, if you're afraid of the answer, then the question probably is going to be very scary for you as well. The one thing there with Windows Vista, it was fascinating because they took that approach. And then in Windows 10, we saw telemetry, all of the data gathering that's going on with that, which, because I guess they were giving it out for free for a little while, they felt like they were owed this. It's such an interesting thing to see that about Face.
But then also, there's a whole side conversation, and not that I'm as much on the marketing and in my professional life, I'm more on the web analytics and usability of a website. But I find sometimes when you talk to people, either it's clients, both internal in my organization or when I've worked as a contractor, there tends to be this thought about statistics and analytics that quantity is better than quality, and that, I mean, maybe it sort of applies here about people opting in and wanting to be tracked on some of these apps. This is actually quality rather than just quantity. But it's so hard to convince people that it's not the numbers, it's what people do with the numbers. It's what people are doing when they're on there and whether they've opted in or opted out. So that's such a hard conversation to have with people because numbers are so powerful and they don't see the information behind the numbers mean more than the numbers themselves.
Yeah, you get into the whole vanity metrics thing. And there's a reason why actual pros will do things like cleaning their databases on a regular basis, right? You want, if you are, take people out of your database, to say your email database, for example, that, you know, if you're getting bounce backs or if they're just not opening, whatever, it's actually reducing your, the quality of your analytics, your open rates and things like that. And if they're not interested, then get them out of there. So yeah, that's, but like you said, it's hard to like let go of like, oh, we've got this reach. And this is something they used to use they use in TV and radio. It's all about reach. What's the potential total number of people that could see a thing versus how many people are actually seeing the thing. Tasia, when Facebook or some of the other advertisers are going to be asking for your permission once you upgrade to iOS 14.5 to track you across various sites, what's your answer going to be?
Yep, y'all know my answer. We carry small computers in our pockets every single day, so track me all you want.
So you're just going to say, yep, or you're only going to let Google?
Yeah, Google is the only one. No, I mean, I say this with, you know, I'm being a little facetious here, but it's like, we're all walking around with giving our information out anyway, right? So it's just now you're being made aware of it, I guess, as the consumer, is really the only difference to me. So I honestly sometimes like certain things being tracked because then I get properly targeted ads or I get properly targeted things shown to me. So in that aspect, I really don't mind. I mean, if the information is not being used for malicious purposes, I got nothing to hide, booze. Come on.
I think the thing for me, and I'm actually on the same page as Tasia, the only, it's not the big ones that bother me so much. It's not like Instagram or those things or those apps. It's when, you know, for example, I buy a package and I want to do the tracking, and I have to download a separate app because they've got some other tracking app and they want all this information from me. No, I just want to use you once. Like I don't want you to track my stuff because I don't know you that well. And I don't want to have a long-term relationship with you. You know, I just buy me dinner first. Come on. Yeah, exactly. Buy me a meal, buy me a Coke or something. Like so that would be the one exception for me where like I would freeze out tracking, partly actually, to be honest, because I'm just annoyed I have to download a separate app that I can't use, you know, FedEx shipping or something at their online service. Like I have to download a separate app and put that on my phone and blah, 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 blah. I know, first world problems, but it's just one of those things where it's another spot where they ask you that, like, can we get permission to do this and this and this and this? It's like, I don't know you very well. So anyways, that's my rant.
Well, I think we can all agree that what we want more than anything is properly targeted election season misinformation.
If you're going to get me.
Yeah, can't wait. In more kind of fun and upbeat news this week, Disney's R&D lab, known as the Imagineers, their Imagineering division, dropped this amazing bipedal robot Groot. And people are comparing it to Honda's old robot that got retired a few years ago, Asimo. But if you've seen this thing, it's like a, I guess it's the teenage Groot. It actually looks more like a tween Groot because he hasn't gotten all surly and you know, just staring at his phone the whole time now. But how much will it take to get one of these in our homes?
So can I jump in on this?
Of course.
I'm a bit of a Disney nut. First of all, if you haven't seen the Disney Plus series, The Imagineers, I highly recommend it. It's amazing. Even if you're not big in the Disney parks and stuff, the amount of innovation that Disney does on a regular basis, and this is just another example of their sort of R&D skunk works. They're working on this for a long time, for several years, and they see, you know, potential in using this in many instances across the parks or in other interactive elements. And I believe they haven't specified what this will be used for. Many Disney sort of insiders or fans think that this is probably going to go in Mission Breakout in some. This is a ride at Disneyland where the old Twilight Zone ride was. It's basically just an elevator that goes up and down really fast and makes you want to vomit. But anyway, so they've themed it to Guardians of the Galaxy. And there's some feeling it's got to go. Like, this is meant for that, right? Like, this is where it's got to go. We just don't know how, or they have not specified. At this event, too, they sort of, this was actually under wraps. They had brought in a bunch of people like TechCrunch and some other people to look at this and made them sign an NDA not to show video and not talk about it for a couple of weeks. So at this event, they also showed a lightsaber. What? So I mean, they just do crazy stuff. And also in this article too, I'll point out another thing for me, just in this whole thing about how they're a little bit like this R&D lab, the startup that really looks at investing in technology so that they can leverage it in their parks and have a competitive advantage. Another thing that they're doing is they're launching this Marvel Land in Disney Adventure, one of their parks that's right next to Disneyland. And one of the things they're going to do is, I believe they're called it Stuntronics. So there's going to be a full-size Spider-Man that they're going to launch like 40 feet in the air across this land and have it land somewhere. And then a guy's going to jump up and go, "Hi, I'm Spider-Man," and pretend that it's the same guy. But they're basically launching this full animatronic just across the park. I mean, what? What? A company is doing this? It's crazy. So anyways,
I've got a great idea. Let's take a buddy that's a ballistic missile and throw it across the theme park. That is genius. Give that man a raise. I do actually.
Yeah, I mean, this could go horribly wrong, right?
I do have some insider information about this. This is actually not for a Guardians of the Galaxy themed exhibit. They had some money. I don't know if you've been to the Hall of Presidents. But instead of building the Donald Trump statue, they built this instead. So he's going in there.
That would be great.
Perfect.
Dialogue's going to be way better, right? Like just, I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. 4 years of that would have been so much better for us. So,
well, unfortunately, this Groot only has a 45-minute battery life, but it does have built-in speakers for interactions with nearby humans. So not supposed to be showing up anytime soon, but I could see maybe in 5 years, if not a touch sooner than that. We see things like this wandering the various Disney parks, at least in a limited capacity, because you know that some people are going to be wanting to pick fights with it and whatnot. But it just goes to show you like how far the robotics have come. You know, we've seen all the stuff from Boston Dynamics over the years. Some of it scary and horrifying stuff, like the robot dogs that can open doors, all that kind of stuff. You know, arm them with weapons or cameras or what have you. But this is a little bit more whimsical. So, Tasia, if you had to have a robot buddy hanging around your house that was maybe from some multinational corporation's intellectual property, who would you choose?
Oh man, well, see, I go instantly into the real creepy side of things, where like I actually wouldn't pick an animated character. I'd like recreate a celebrity I have a crush on, and I would have that be the robot in the house to serve me water and things. Okay, let's not get weird about it. Okay,
Yes, no judge.
No judgment here. But yeah, I don't know. You know, you're gonna laugh. I was obsessed with The Lion King, so I'd probably have like Simba.
That'd be awesome.
Just deliver me like my water or something cool, or even just like if Simba like controlled the stuff around my house, you know, that'd be pretty cool. But
So-
the voice would be the original JTT, Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
excellent.
So the other thing, sorry, just one last thing, I promise I'll stop.
Never apologize.
Is one of the other things they mentioned in this article, and is fairly well known, is that they did have an autonomous droid at one point called Jake going around Tomorrowland, and they were testing it. This was a couple years ago. And some of the feelings is that this was, and there was some concept art for Galaxy's Edge, the Star Wars land at Disneyland and Disney World, that they were going to do that, and they're looking at doing that. And this is, again, another one of the Skunk Works things they're doing about AI and autonomous motion. They have tested out an R2D2, but it was remote control. There was a guy walking behind it and somebody else controlling it from a station. But they want these things to be rolling around and nobody controlling them. They want these little guys walking around and talking to people. I mean, that would be just be the next level.
And that's we've come a long way from Expo 86 when we had Expo Ernie, which is a little robot wandering around, and you could see the guy, maybe 10, 20 yards away with the microphone speaking into his sleeve, going, "Oh, hi, I'm Expo Ernie. What's your favorite ride so far?" So ones that are fully autonomous and roaming the park on their own, hopefully with peaceful intentions, would be great. Tasia, I'm just glad you didn't say Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey as your chosen robot. And his beard grows over time as he gets more and more eccentric and he gets stressed out from having to testify in front of the U.S. Congress.
Exactly.
In other fun-ish news, on Mars, we still have the Perseverance rover, and Ingenuity, which is its helicopter, has just completed its third little test flight and rose 16 feet in the air, flew a distance of 164 feet, and got up to 6.6 feet per second. And a lot of people were worried initially that it would be really hard to fly a little helicopter. I mean, it looks like a drone to the casual observer, but it's kind of the same universe here, so to speak. And because the air is so much thinner on Mars, so would it actually get enough lift? But the rotor spins so fast, and it's amazing. We're seeing video footage from Mars of a little helicopter flying around. We are truly living in the future.
The RC plane enthusiast in me is just going crazy right now. I used to fly remote control planes when I was a kid, and this is awesome. I do want one thing out of NASA on this, though, now, and that is go find Curiosity, go find Insight, and dust off the panels.
Have a reunion.
Bring them back, because they believe that if they can get those solar panels dusted off, they could actually charge those batteries back up and bring those babies back to life. I am so here for that. I'm so here for it. Yeah.
I always think of Wally. Oh, do you see it? I mean, the video is, I'm not super impressive because it's this video here, because it's at such a distance, but it's just, when you just think about like how far away this thing is and how many, is it 11 minutes it takes for them to issue commands and for them to come back? So they have to pre-program this and let it do its thing, and then they got to cross their fingers and hopefully it doesn't get swept away in a Martian sandstorm. Speaking of outer space, though, Graham, you had a little trip to the moon recently.
We're talking Safe Moon, so this is kind of interesting. I mean, I told you guys about this last week, and obviously it had sort of this meteoric rise. It is now the #1 search cryptocurrency in the world. There's a huge community that is building up on Safe Moon right now, and the idea here is something that they're calling tokenomics. And so essentially, when you go to buy this cryptocurrency, there's a 10% tax on it. Okay, so I immediately lose 10% of the money that I put in. Here's the crazy thing. Any transaction, sending it to perhaps your own cold wallet, sending it to a friend, there is a 10% tax. And so it seems like, why on earth would we do this? 5% of that is actually burned right away. So 5% of it goes away. So this is inherently deflationary. But the other 5% is redistributed to all of the users. So you are incentivized to hold on to this. And this is something that I think is breaking the brains of a lot of crypto bros out there, of just like, but no, it must have purpose. And some people are going, yeah, it's got a purpose. It makes me money.
There's some big Ponzi energy in there, just to be sure. So what would you say to those who claim that it's simply a Ponzi scheme and the utility is really just for show and people aren't actually using this for legitimate transactions?
It's interesting because like Ponzi schemes have sort of a dedicated structure where there is somebody at the top, right? There's a pyramid style structure. But with tokenomics, they've basically taken, a big boulder and dropped it on a Ponzi scheme and flattened it out, because that gets redistributed to everyone. The devs actually burned all their tokens before this went live. They're probably one of the most visible groups in cryptocurrency. You see a lot of these altcoins show up, and somebody's like, "Hello, I'm Ultra 6 and I am your," and it's just, there's nobody on YouTube, it's just the voice. You're like, yeah, I don't really. But these guys, they're actually like, they're right out there showing their faces, talking about who they are. They've got some plans on what they want to do with this thing. They're talking about microfinance in Africa. And so it's interesting, is like, I'm hearing the same sort of things that I heard about this, that I heard about Bitcoin when it first started. It's a scam. It's a Ponzi scam. Somebody's making money that you're not. And it's just sort of one of those interesting things where it's like, we saw Dodge go from 2013 to now, going from like so many zeros to, I think, being worth about 25 cents. And, Dodge is celebrated for being this thing that's making people money. It doesn't really have a whole purpose. I think there's a bit more of a plan behind SafeMoon, but it's still very much about building this community and then kind of almost redistributing wealth to a degree. I don't know. Is it both communist and capitalist at the same time? I really couldn't tell you. The one thing that I will say is that they have accomplished some things that not many other people have. They are at half of the audience of Dodge, and I think it's like 55 days. What Dodge did since 2013, or Doge, if you really want to lengthen that out, Doge. They've got over 1 million holders. I've got some of this stuff. I threw $500 into this ages ago, so it's actually more money than I thought it would ever be worth. So I'm shocked. That's this is not financial advice, that whole sort of piece.
So you're at the top of the pyramid, is what you're saying.
So I am the SafeMoon. But just looking at this thing, like they've hit exchanges. They started out with Whitebit, MXC. I think it was ZBG from China joined yesterday, and they're crushing the amount of exchanges that any cryptocurrency has been able to pick up. So, I kind of brought this up as a joke last time, but looking at this, the idea of tokenomics is kind of curious because, what it does do is it prevents arbitrage, which is you buy on one exchange at a low price and then go and sell it at another one. And arbitrage can really start to slide the price around on things. It's one of the reasons that some cryptocurrencies will crash. This is inherently, difficult to arbitrage, not impossible, difficult. And looking at this, it's sort of, they've got an audit coming. If this thing passes audit and it's on all sorts of exchanges and they do find a way to basically rising tide lifts all ships, there's got to be an endpoint somewhere, but it doesn't look to be anytime soon. And so for the folks who are there, this is the same sort of GameStop energy that I got from the Wall Street Bets kids, where it's like, just get on the train, ride it up as long as you can, and hope you're not the last guy on.
So just so we're clear, this has had twice the speed of growth as Doge in its early days, and they haven't had an audit yet. How many millions, hundreds of millions of dollars are in this pre-audit?
Well, and so this is the thing. They stated outright that they were doing an audit, and the group that's doing the audit is fairly reputable. So it's sort of we're doing the audit, and actually for one of the first times ever, this group came out and said mid-audit, yes, we're doing the audit, and there was no immediate red flags of like, you need to get out right now. They were there. This is the sort of really interesting thing. This happened earlier today. They've been looking to raise $1 million, which, it's like, well, you guys have probably got some of these coins. Why don't you just pay it for us? But basically, we're trying to bring the community together to build their own exchange. And the idea here is that they would apply tokenomics to almost any cryptocurrency. So this could take, if you're trading it on this exchange, this could take arbitrage out of the question for existing coins if they decide to move over to this, or any new coins that do launch. It's a very, very interesting concept, and I think you're going to hear a lot more about it in the next little while.
Tasia, what are you looking for in a highly speculative cryptocurrency investment?
Listen, I'm just wondering, how are these people making money?
Well, especially if they burned all their tokens. That's. I mean, just Graham, would you mind explaining for the folks at home, all 6 of them, what burning is exactly? Because that is important in terms of the economics of the entire token.
Yeah, so essentially what it's doing is it's taking those tokens out of commission. Bitcoin famously only has 21 million tokens available. So for currencies that don't have that top end limit, where mining can continue, you need some way of essentially deflating the number of these things. They're like, just, you want to make sure that the currency continues to appreciate in value as opposed to not like perhaps fiat currency does. And so what these processes do is they basically take them and they take those pieces off the board. They remove them forever, they're done. And so the burning process there, again, is part of this mechanism. And the redistribution process is the other part. This auto staking feature, basically, of creating value for existing holders is pretty powerful. There's another cryptocurrency that I'm looking at right now, which I am invested in, which is the Terra ecosystem, which has a whole series of almost mechanical flywheels to keep their currencies and their stable coins pegged together, and pegged to the US dollar or the local currency. And it's a very, very well designed, very elegant system that I honestly think is the future of cryptocurrency. And then this thing comes along, and it's like this jalopy with rockets and wheels slapped on, going, "All right, everybody, let's go to the moon!" Woo!
And it's oh so shiny.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I mean, I found some couch crypto and threw it into this thing, and all of a sudden I just went, "It's worth what?" And they're really like, I'm looking at it going, because if I lose my $500, I am not terribly concerned. But you're looking at it this way and going, well, it could be that. And that was sort of, again, these were the feelings that I got from Bitcoin so many years ago, which again didn't really pay off until last year. But just by dropping a couple of zeros here, this thing could be.
So
we
back
could buy
to you.
Momentous Island.
Exactly, a libertarian paradise. Now, sorry, back to you, Tasia. What would I get the impression, not that we've talked about it a whole lot, that you are a bit of a crypto skeptic? Would that be correct?
Mm-hmm.
The sip was perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what would it take for you to dip your toe in the water? Whether it's NFTs, which we're gonna get into a little example of that in just a moment, or just regular store value such as Bitcoin, smart contracts such as powered by the Ethereum network, which also has a lot of NFT action on there too, except quite expensive, or some of our decentralized finance, or these exotic investment vehicles. Like, if you were to dip your toe into the water of the blockchain/cryptocurrency world, what would you need to see, and what would the use case be for you?
I really don't know, because I'm very risk adverse. So I feel like for me, because I'm not super on top of all of this, by the time I hear about this stuff, it's too late to get into it. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of touched on this last week. So by the time it reaches Tasia's ears, it's like, no, I've missed the boat on that. So
go all in. That's the time.
Yeah, that's when you go all in. I would look at it more of like, if we were talking about NFTs, and it was something I thought was would be valuable to me personally, or a collectible, or something I want, not so much as an investment hoping to get a good return on my money. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. Totally fair enough.
Sure.
But
sure.
So if we could only rewind the clock a bit, someday Graham and I will share a fun and depressing story about our crypto-free history.
Turn back time.
But I totally get what you mean, Tasia. Like, with any of these things, like, if you are not paying very close attention, and you're in the Discord groups or the Telegram channels or the Slacks or what have you, watching for the next opportunity, by the time regular folks hear about these things and start putting their money in, it could, the opportunity could have passed. And then it is kind of like the Ponzi-nomics kind of at work there, where the people who got in early, they start slowly cashing out the positions, and then you see the values on some of these start to decrease, especially if there's no actual utility to it. Now, if there is utility and there's ways that these can be used, and a perfect example of that is something like BNB, which is the Binance coin, which Binance, which is a large crypto exchange in China, they use their own coin for paying trading fees. So that's like, if you want to play on Binance, you've got to buy a little bit of BNB, and that's how you pay your fees if you want to buy or sell any kind of crypto, whether it's Bitcoin, Ether, Doge, Luna, what have you. And so there's utility there, and BNB has skyrocketed. It was at 30 cents just a couple of years ago, and now it's over $500 last time I checked. But there was wow. It's gone up and down over the years, but it's been on the steady increase, the trend, because more and more people have gotten into crypto. And just like with Coinbase in the United States, which went public recently, Binance is the big exchange in China, and they have international versions that that folks can use too. And they have utility for their coin. It's for paying the fees. But speaking of NFTs, Will, I think a new NFT crossed your path and caught your attention this week. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I mean, this was one that was released a little bit recently. It's this basically a company called Mighty Jaxx released a statue. I think it's called The Beauty of Rebellion. And one of the options with it was to mint an NFT. And so this was, I know there's been lots of NFTs floating around in the news, and this caught my eye because I'm partly into collectibles. And to be honest with you, this is one of the NFTs that made the most sense to me. You are buying the thing. You are buying a thing. You don't have to buy an NFT with it. But if you want to, the NFT sort of shows the chain of ownership. It puts it on this registry. And so you mint an NFT with it. So you're buying the statue, and would you like an NFT as well? And it's an extra cost for that NFT. I think they might actually be sold out on Mighty Jaxx right now. I think you might still be able to buy the statue on Sideshow Collectibles. But I just thought this was an interesting application. But this also piqued my interest a little bit because, again, I travel in nerdy collecting circles, and Hasbro had a conference call with investors today, and they just happened to mention that they are looking at NFTs, and they're looking at setting up some NFTs. That they were extremely non-specific about what they would do with these, whether it would be the NBA model of clips or virtual trading cards, or whether it would be this Mighty Jaxx way of buying a collectible, an action figure or a statue or something, and buying an NFT with it. They were non-specific about what they were doing, just that they had set up, I think, a team or some people who were investigating this and were going to be creating some NFTs as a future offering.
Well, and for those, again, may have missed the last couple of episodes, NFT, non-fungible tokens. So a way to verify the authenticity of digital collectibles, have them in limited editions, being able to track their provenance, and you can have limited number of owners. You can say how many are in the edition, and you're seeing more and more. There was a bit of a bubble that happened, but there's still increased interest. Like you said, Hasbro and others getting into this, and I think it appeals to those the collecting instincts of some folks, especially when you're younger. There's the whole thing, you spend your first half of your life accumulating stuff and then the second half decluttering. And for some of us, that's music, whether it's CDs, records, it could have been VHS tapes, DVDs, Blu-rays, all the upgrades you have to do.
Can I just stop?
Yeah.
Can I just stop? If anyone is looking at decluttering Vestax mixers, please call me. I'm looking for old Vestax mixers.
Will's still in the first half.
Yeah.
Well, and oddly enough, there's you had another story for us, Will, and Will, very quickly, can you tell us about the Denon DJ LC 6000 Prime, an old concept in a slick new package? What is this we're looking at?
So this is interesting because Denon, I mean, one of the things that they're known for in DJ circles is having pretty well-built gear. And they came out with the Denon SC 6000 and the 6000M about a year ago. And these are what they call media players. So the interesting thing is that it's not requiring a software like a DVS software, and it's not requiring needles and records like a Technics 1200 or another turntable brand. That this actually, you plug in either a memory card, a thumb drive, or you use it's hooked up to Wi-Fi, so you can actually use Beatport and BeatSource and a number of the other sort of flavors of streaming. So I like it because it's sort of like Pinocchio. I got no strings. I don't have to hook up a laptop. I don't have to hook up an extra source. Now, the interesting thing is this is the LC 6000, and the LC 6000 uses the SC 6000 as sort of its home base. So that's kind of the main player. It's got the sort of engine in it, Engine OS, I believe it's called. Mm-hmm. And this just deals with the layers. So it would be just one of the, there are actually dual layers, the SC 6000, but this takes on one of the layers. Now, the interesting thing, this had been rumored for a while because it was natural. They sort of thought, hey, look, this is already set up. The SC 6000 is got 2 layers. We could use a controller or something to add on to that to control the extra layer, because it's kind of awkward to create 2 layers on these one devices, or I have to buy 2 of these things, which it seems like overkill. So why don't I just make a separate controller that controls one of the layers? What people did not think that they did, which kind of blew people's minds, is you can buy 2 of these things and use them as controllers with a DVS. So right now it's just set up with Serato. They're looking at Tractor, or there's some rumors about Tractor in the future. The other thing is, sorry, I keep on saying the other thing. The other
there's a lot of things.
There's a lot. And this is why I'm so excited about it, is that you could also buy a controller, so a 2-channel controller or 4-channel controller, and add these things on and get 4 devices into it. So there's just a lot of flexibility here. We have the Rain 12s that link into Serato, which are 12-inch platters, which are standalone controls, which are motorized. Some people have said, hey, I don't come from a motorized world. I'd like non-motorized ones. These are not motorized platters. I come from a motorized world, so I like motorized platters, but I just see that this is adding so much in the market. When it was sort of found out today, this morning, because it's really new, this device, that it did work with, we're like, what? So it has kind of sent some ripples through the nerdy DJ industry, and just the number of ways that you could use these things. Also, $700 US, which is much better than the LC 6000. The SC 6000 is something like $2,700 or $2,500. So these are just a nice little add-on. For the price of a controller, you could buy 2 of these if you already have a mixer. Now, if you have a controller, that doesn't, this is just an added cost. But there's just so much potential in these things. So I was super excited about it. But I know this is a very niche market, but these are really cool devices.
Well, just imagine when someday DJs will actually have real audiences to play for again and not simply streaming online. I also want to point out that you may recall
a 2 Brute, a 2.
You may recall the other major pop culture character in the last decade or so that claimed he had no strings on me was Ultron. Yes. So let's just be careful what we wish for.
Yes.
Things didn't go so well with him. Speaking of Ultron and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Gray, tell us a little about one of the latest trailers that just dropped from Marvel.
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So really quickly, this is pretty fantastic. This is a character that, quite frankly, was really unfortunately steeped in some really racist iconography many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. One of the main villains was named Fu Manchu. And so this character, though, kind of capitalizing on the sort of kung fu ethos of the 1970s, Marvel brought him into the pantheon. And they've really taken this character and recast him in such an incredible way. Honestly, like I'm so in love with this trailer right now. There's so many great actors and actresses in it. The martial arts are the wirework's just off the hook. And so what we're seeing here as well is we're also seeing a reclamation of the idea of the 10 rings. Shang-Chi's father actually has these 10 bracelets, which if you've ever seen Kung Fu Hustle, one of the characters wears similar bracelets. It's actually a style of martial arts. And so the idea here is you can see that the symbol of the 10 rings around him, which we originally saw with Ben Kingsley playing a character named Trevor Slattery, who was pretending to be the Mandarin. And so this is actually the real Mandarin. And so we were suspecting possibly that the Mandarin might be the power broker in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or I guess Captain America and the Winter Soldier. But this is just like, the work is so good. I am so very thrilled about it.
Yeah, it looks a little less chop socky and like actually legit, and perhaps a bit more culturally sensitive than the kind of stuff that we may have seen in decades past. Looking forward to that one. Now, is that a movie or a TV series? It's going to be.
This is a movie, and I believe it's coming out. So when are we here? It is end of the year, I think. 9/3/21. There you go.
Excellent. Maybe next week we can do our little debrief on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I'll give Tasia a chance to watch that, and WandaVision, because we're still waiting for her to do that too. Tasia, speaking of Tasia, you had a couple things happen in the last week. One of them was just today. Really quickly, can you get us up to speed on those before we wrap?
Yeah, today I got to chat with my friend Katie Lance. She runs Katie Lance Consulting, and we got to talk all things lead generation for YouTube. So, she really deals with an audience full of real estate agents, but it was tips for everybody that's trying to either grow a YouTube channel and how to get lead gen off of YouTube, best practices for YouTube, all that kind of stuff. So the replay is there on Katie Lance Consulting Facebook page.
Right. And we'll be sure to add it to the notes when we post the archive version of this video up to YouTube and elsewhere. And how about your weekly video? What do you got for us this time?
Yes, this time, okay, this is episode 2 out of only going to be a 3-part series, you guys. Don't worry, on my Google travel tips. So this one covered Google Translate tips for travel and a couple little Google Photos tips, like how I use it when I am traveling. Because if you're not traveling right now, you're dreaming of traveling, and you will be traveling soon, I promise you all. So it's just good to have these little tips in your back pocket when you're ready to go.
So be sure to like those videos, save them for future reference, because there's nothing worse than realizing, crap, we're leaving tomorrow. Not only are you packing, you're figuring out what to do with the pets, and it's like, oh, I didn't get any digital stuff organized. The app, where to find the EV charger if you're renting a Tesla or something like that for a road trip. All those things, all the kind of travel apps. When we're allowed to travel again, it'll be glorious. So we'll make sure to check out your series of videos there. Thanks so much, and thank you to everyone watching this week. You can find out more about us at momentous.tv, facebook.com/momentous.tv, twitter.com/momentous.tv, instagram.com/momentous.tv. Instagram, call us. And all the great socials. Thanks, friends. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.